This evening, Opposition Chief Whip criticizes Budget 2023 as lacking in good governance. Minister of Education defends $94.4 billion allocation for improving education facilities and universal secondary education. Man pleads guilty to manslaughter in domestic incident that resulted in his wife's death. In the region, woman arrested for stealing a police car, kidnapping a toddler in Trinidad, and internationally, severe cold snap hammers East Asia from Japan to China. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Updates. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we begin our newscast with the ongoing National Assembly debates on Budget 2023. The Minister of Education, Priya Manikchan, defended the allocation of $94.4 billion to the education sector, stating that it is in line with the government's goal of providing quality and equitable education for all students. The minister highlighted that despite an increase in student population of 193,000, the budgeted sum for education equates to roughly $237,000 per child. Manikchan explained that a large part of the allocation will be spent on infrastructural works on the education facilities countrywide. In its quest to achieve universal secondary education, 3 schools will be built this year in Region 1. The Northwest Secondary, which was destroyed by arson, will also be rebuilt. In Region 2, the Abrahamsville Secondary School will be completed. 3 schools will be constructed in Region 3 at Tushin and another on the West Bank. In Region 4, the Yarrow Cabra and Good Hope Secondary Schools will be completed. A new school will also be constructed at Prospect. In Georgetown, the St. Mary's, Price Church, St. George's, and North Rhymeville Secondary Schools will be reconstructed. In Region 6, a school will be built at Oriala, Jawala in Region 7, and Karasabi in Region 9. All the multilateral schools will also be rehabilitated. The Education Minister affirmed that the government is committed to ensuring that all children have access to quality education and that the allocation of funds is in line with this goal. Continuing our coverage of Budget 2023, Opposition Chief Whip Christopher Jones has criticized Budget 2023 as dismal and a reflection of the People's Progressive Party Civic's lack of commitment to good governance. Jones made his comments during the first day of Budget 2023 debates on Monday, highlighting the government's lack of interest in ensuring the equitable distribution of wealth among all Guyanese.
Budget 2023, sir, has not done what is right by the Guyanese people. Comrade Speaker, it was former President Dr. Chedi Jagan who said, and I quote, "You cannot live a Cadillac lifestyle in a donkey cart economy." Sir, Guyana is now an oil-producing nation with the biggest budget ever of $781.9 billion, almost $1 trillion, and only 1.7% is going to the Guyanese people. It is pellucid, sir. Guyana now has a Cadillac economy, but it is the People's Progressive Party Civic who has the Guyanese people living a donkey cart lifestyle. Comrade Speaker, as a result of what I've articulated above, the theme of this budget, improving lives today, building prosperity for tomorrow, just like the One Guyana mantra, sir, they will remain but a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never obtained.
He also pointed to the breakdown in parliamentary functions as evidence of the PPP's lack of interest in good governance. Jones criticized the irregular holding of parliamentary committees and the scarcity of National Assembly sit-ins. He also highlighted the failure of the several parliamentary oversight committees, such as the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Security, to meet. Jones also pointed to the changing of the quorum of the Public Accounts Committee, which has resulted in the committee not meeting on several occasions. He also criticized the government for forcefully attempting to control every aspect of governance. He posited that good governance could not exist unless there is a productive relationship between the government and the opposition. In another heartbreaking incident of domestic violence, a 35-year-old cane harvester confessed to fatally stabbing his wife during a domestic altercation in their Rosignol West Bank Berbice home in 2020. Tejram Rahim was arraigned before Justice Narendra Singh at the Berbice High Court for the capital offence of murder. However, Rahim opted to plead guilty to the lesser count of manslaughter. According to reports, the incident occurred on November 13, 2020, when the couple and their 3 children had just arrived home from a relative's birthday party. An argument ensued over allegations of infidelity. The young mother threatened to leave the house when Rahim went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and stabbed her in the left side chest while she was lying on the bed. The couple's eldest child, who was 11 at the time, after realizing what occurred, raised an alarm, and other relatives who lived in the same yard ran to the aid of the woman. She was picked up in an unconscious state and rushed to the Fort Wellington Hospital, where she was pronounced dead on arrival. A post-mortem examination found that the woman died from a puncture to the heart due to one of the stab wounds. Sentences for Tejram Rahim has been deferred until February 20, 2023. This tragic incident serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and the importance of addressing and preventing it. If you or anyone you know may be in a domestic violent or intimate partner violent relationship, call the Ministry of Social Protection hotline on 914 now. Stick around when we return. Police investigate tragic drowning incident at Kamakabra Creek, and police find unregistered firearm at Meadowbank Wharf.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Welcome back. During the early hours of this morning, Two police corporals were conducting a foot patrol exercise at Meadowbank Wharf. During the patrol, the officers observed a male wearing a black hoodie acting in a suspicious manner near the fourth fish vending stall. Upon seeing the police, the man ran towards a clump of bushes in a northern direction and successfully escaped. The officers noted that the man had dropped something, and upon giving chase and investigating, one of the corporals found a .32 revolver without a serial number on the ground in the grass. The firearm, which was not loaded, was examined, photographed, and taken to the Rheinfeld police station, where it was marked, sealed, and lodged with the subordinate officer in charge to be taken to the ballistics department for further examination. Investigations into the incident are ongoing, and police are urging any individuals with information to come forward. In other news, police are investigating the death of a 31-year-old man who drowned at the Caracabara Creek in Aituni on Monday, January 23rd. The man, identified as Patrick Lord of Viva La Force, West Bank Demerara, was swimming near a coker with his brother and co-workers when he failed to surface. They searched for him for about 10 minutes before his brother felt him under the water and pulled him up. He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The body is at a funeral parlor awaiting a post-mortem examination. Investigation is ongoing. Don't go away after the break. UK lawmakers debate on public healthcare reforms, and protests in Bangladesh grow due to rising prices.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold, and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rheinveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Hey, this is your fancy vehicle and so is your house?
Yes, this is my vehicle and actually I'm waiting on my land. I'm actually renting this house for $50,000.
$50,000? You head more? You crazy? You mad? You head no good? Why you buy? Look, let me show you the light. Come with me.
Come on down to Fabulous Homes today. Pay $50,000 every month for 36 months or until you reach 50% of your house costs. Move in after 75% of the cost has been paid.
This is wonderful. Let's go. Sign me up.
Alright, let me go and dash away your landlord.
To explore our home ownership program, check our Facebook page for more information or come down to our office at Avalon Friendship.
Hey, Chinese, thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
You got through?
Yes.
Call us at 227-1380 or 615-8740. Fabulous Homes International Realty, changing tenants into homeowners.
At Fabulous Homes, we bring your dreams to life.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In Trinidad and Tobago, a 24-year-old woman is in police custody after she allegedly stole a police vehicle from a station in Kunupai and used it to kidnap a toddler in Arima. The incident occurred on Monday when the woman, who is known to the parents of the child, was left briefly in charge of the toddler. When the parents returned home, they discovered their daughter missing and were informed by neighbors that the woman had taken the child. The police were alerted and officers from the North Central Division Task Force West were on patrol and spotted the stolen car being driven along the eastern main road. They attempted to stop the car, but it fled the scene. The car was later intercepted and the child was rescued unharmed. The child was taken for a medical examination and the woman remains in custody, facing charges of kidnapping and theft. Internationally, there have been a series of anti-government demonstrations across Bangladesh in recent months. The main opposition party is leading calls for Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign, accusing her government of failing to curb price increases and stifling dissent, Al Jazeera's Tanveer Chowdhury reports.
For years, Bangladesh's economy has been one of the fastest growing in the world. But with patchy recovery after the pandemic and warnings of global recession, it's struggling. The government is seeking $4.5 billion loan from International Monetary Fund, and political parties are unable to agree on how to hold election due December this year.
There are largely two crises the nation is going through. One is the political deadlock. The bigger parties, BNP and Awami League, could not agree to a credible election mechanism. And secondly, the economic crisis, which covers all kinds of things. Price hike, energy bills are going out of control, middle class is struggling.
People angry at the government's failure to stop soaring energy and food prices are out on the streets demonstrating, and many of them are not members of political parties.
These protests are bound to happen. People with fixed incomes are struggling. House rent, energy costs, and all food essential prices are rising to almost double now, but people's salaries are not rising.
This government has done some development work, like building bridges and infrastructure, but not much else really. Food, essential items and rent are at an all-time high. Low-income people are facing a lot of hardship.
Public anger is also growing over what many see as excessive spending on ambitious development projects, and there are accusations of corruption and cronyism. Rights groups accuse the government of increasing attacks and intimidation against opposition members.
At this protest rally, I was harassed and slapped by the police. They told me that if I wanted to stay in this country, I would have to support the ruling party, the Awami League. Otherwise, I should leave.
The economy is struggling. Food and energy prices have increased, partly a knock-on effect of Russia's war in Ukraine. Opposition parties have channeled public anger against the rising cost of living into protest against the government.
Bangladesh leaders clearly have a lot to deal with, and many here expect they'll be adding more protest and unrest to their list in the coming weeks. Tanveer Chowdhury, Al Jazeera, Dhaka.
Meanwhile, in Europe, the ongoing strikes in the United Kingdom's National Health Service for better pay and staffing levels have highlighted pressures that have been growing for years. Al Jazeera's Nadim Baba reports.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep our NHS alive.
With strikes spreading and talk of a system on its knees, is Britain's reverence for its National Health Service blocking much needed reform? Sajid Javid certainly thinks so. The Conservative former Health Secretary and Finance Minister wrote recently the 75-year-old model of the NHS is unsustainable. Javid suggested people could pay for consulting a family doctor and praised Ireland's system, where patients must pay around $81 to access the equivalent of the UK's accident and emergency departments, A&E, unless referred by their doctor. Now that's the sort of idea most British politicians run away from because it means scrapping the doctrine that healthcare should be free at the point of need. The Prime Minister has distanced himself from the comments, but Rishi Sunak did, before taking office, talk about issuing fines to NHS patients who miss appointments. He then backtracked. The opposition Labour parties also stepped into the debate. Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting has suggested the growing waiting lists could be tackled by the NHS sending more patients to private hospitals. Louise Irvin, a retired family doctor and anti-privatisation campaigner, thinks that's a bad idea.
There isn't an infinite pool of doctors and nurses, and a lot of doctors and nurses go into the private sector because they get paid more. And furthermore, when something goes wrong in the private sector, the patient is then, red lighted straight into an NHS A&E. Now, what we need to build up our NHS again.
Louise says she did see real improvements in patient experience in the 2000s under Labour, when annual increases in NHS funding were higher than they are now. Since it was created, spending on the NHS has increased by an average 3.7% per year in real terms. But from 2010 to 2018, when the Conservatives governed in coalition and then on their own, annual NHS funding growth slowed to 1.4%. It's rising more quickly now, but an ageing population and increasing demand for expensive treatments means nobody's noticing.
If we look at the NHS compared to other OECD countries, we have fewer doctors and nurses per head of population, we have fewer hospital beds per head of population, we have lower levels of investment in things like diagnostic equipment, and all those things are not about the way in which the NHS is organised and funded. That's about the fundamental decisions we made about the level that we want to spend on health in this country.
So the challenge to the politicians is this: dealing with the crises hitting the health service right now, planning for the long term and avoiding a two-tier system. Nadeem Barber, Al Jazeera, London.
And finally, several people have died as a result of severe winter weather in Japan. The cold snap cancelled flights and disrupted traffic after causing havoc in other East Asian countries earlier this week. Al Jazeera's presenter Cara Legg reports.
It may look like a winter wonderland, but the once-in-a-decade cold snap that blasted Japan was far from pretty, sparking extreme weather warnings across East Asia and bringing record-low temperatures, icy conditions and snowstorms to the region, causing travel chaos in South Korea and Japan during the busiest Lunar New Year period.
It was quite a whiteout, or it felt like it suddenly turned white, so I guess the driver couldn't see and crashed.
The strong winds are believed to have caused a cargo ship to sink between Japan and South Korea's Jeju Island. Rescue workers searched for crew members in gusts that broke records in northern Japan. New snowfall and temperature records were also set across the country, and just days earlier, China recorded its lowest ever temperature of minus 53 degrees Celsius in its northernmost city. But that didn't stop the cleanup operations on the streets.
I swept about 600 to 700 meters of snow here, starting from noon. My face may be frozen, but my body is warm.
With another cold blast on the horizon, North Korea has issued an extreme cold alert that's heightened concern for the people in the poorest areas as temperatures tumble. Cara Legg, Al Jazeera.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. This concludes today's headline news update. Tune in tomorrow, Thursday at 7 p.m. for another broadcast. For more news and updates, you can visit our Facebook and YouTube pages. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.